can see the difference in the kids because they know automatically that, oh, I've got mum's attention.
Yes.
And it's an honouring of them as well. And I mean, think about that if you're honouring your partner that way all the time. Can't help it.
I don't want to raise assholes that do that to other people. I just think it, again, sit as the observer, be the fly on the wall. Give yourself the opportunity of seeing this happening in society, which is everywhere. But, you know, have that experience, because I think then that helps you create a foundational belief that you can then build upon. Hello, Quanta folks, and welcome to episode 7 or part 2 of something communications or continue. Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, a bit of relationship revival.
Work. Yeah, that was the original one we had.
Relationship restoration. Oh my God, we workshop for all of 5 minutes, but there was something around. This is a very, I think, specific but common topic. Because there's so many people that are in long-term relationships. But even if you're not in a long-term relationship, the honeymoon effect has potential to stay, doesn't it?
And I love it. Jodi's straight back into it again. I'm McGill from QuantiPapa.
I'm Jodi from QuantiMama, and clearly I've got stuff to say.
You've got a lot to say, so take it away.
Right. So with episode 6, we were discussing the richness of Gary Chapman's work, Dr. Gary Chapman, and the 5 love languages. And if you haven't had an opportunity to look into the 5 love languages, I highly recommend it. You can head to the website, 5 Love Languages, and there's even a quiz there. It's a quiz there for the kids. It's such an incredible framework for communication within the family and understanding where those little nuances and differences are and how to really high vibe relationships.
Yeah, and the best way to get to be able to communicate with your partner and to be able to receive from your partner. So that, well, I was pretty, audacious about the fact that was going to be your homework. So hopefully you've done it. But
and if not, no worries, because you've got radical self-responsibility.
Yes, that one's all on you.
Yeah.
So what we thought we might move on with and talk a little bit more about is different things we've used over the years to either give our relationship a kick on or to change our focus when we're coming in and blocking outside influences from coming into our house or into our time together. And I guess...
I feel like there's something further to that.
Well, there is, because it's probably one that I did with when I was working full time and I could be in a very high pressure job and come back home and be stressed and then bring that stress with me into the house. And then when you got little kids, the person is always going to wear your stress is your partner.
Yes.
And if you're doing that on a continuing basis and you're coming in nowhere near A game, which is what we're talking about, then that's the sort of stuff that can really start to create some real cracks.
Yes. And I think that is where we need to shine our attention on nourishing long-term relationships, any relationships, but let's talk long-term because that applies to us. Where you notice those little tiny indiscretions, they are I'm not talking like having an affair. I'm talking about you roll in the door with all the stress of what's happened during the day that bears no relevance and certainly has not been impacted by the family. Like the family have not created that stress for you. That's been in your environment during the day. When you bring that in, there is a couple of things that are happening. Firstly, there is a lack of radical self-responsibility. There is a lack of honouring of your family unit and your relationship because, again, those people did not create that stress for you. And there's an argument there that really, if we're going to be radically self-responsible, then we have some practices that create some delineation with our day, some mindfulness to remember who we're coming home to, and then some honouring of those relationships, because there is a real richness in having a long-term relationship, isn't there?
There is. So
can you imagine what would happen if you had to go back to going out of the room to fart? He took me under the bus in episode 5, so this is I've got a little bit of payback.
I knew I shouldn't have signed up for any more. Once upon a time, hey?
I did say the other day, and McGill's going to kill me for sharing this, but I said to someone, long-term relationships, I mean, when you can look at your partner who's sleeping butt naked, butt hanging out, farting in the morning while they're asleep, and you can still love them, isn't that the sign of a healthy relationship?
It is, and I love you to bits for that, darling. I do.
No one's looking at me thinking it's me. But they are looking at you going, I bet that guy's got an amazing ass, and it would be a very sweet look.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful bottom, darling.
Smell-o-vision's not necessarily what it's supposed to be.
Oh, my God. I still choose you.
I'm very blessed.
Yes, you are.
And I still choose
Remember that.
my darling.
Thank you.
Even though I'm completely blushing and
oh, darling.
lost for words.
Yes.
Not the first time.
So I'm going to save you as well, because I've thrown you under the bus. Now I'm going to resuscitate you. Like I'm the worst kind. I'm the sort that lights fires and then puts them out. One thing that I think is probably the most corrosive thing to relationships, interpersonal relationships, is this thing, right? We are becoming enslaved to our devices, and it is affecting relationships. And one of the things that I really am making my practice is to notice when people, in just observing relationships and noticing when people are doing this and also having a conversation. And I get it, we feel time poor, and so we multitask all the time. But oh my God, the person who is trying to communicate with you and you are holding this, it is such a, hitting the mic again, it is such a slap in the face for people in terms of, I am not present. What you are saying is not worthy of my full attention. And we do this with the kids as well. This is going to be the greatest catalyst for relationship demise than anything else.
And social interaction, everything. Our phones have become such a pivotal point in our lives.
They're integral.
And look, they are.
Yeah.
But they have a time and a place.
Well, I mean, people freak out when they leave home without it.
Yes, but that's okay. But just because you're home, it doesn't mean the phone needs to be in your hand.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it needs to be in your pocket.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean, I mean, you think back to when we were growing up, again, showing our age, and those wonderful people who got all the got all the
Norm and Intermission and Cliff.
Got those references.
Mm.
I mean, you used to have to be home at a certain time to answer a phone call.
What about dialing up the phone?
Yep.
Like that process of dialing 8
But
numbers.
even then, when you had to, you were connected to the wall for all those years. And then we finally got, cordless phones.
Yes.
But if you wanted to go and see someone.
That's not a criticism, though.
No.
Like, this is not a criticism. Acknowledging the impact and the addiction. They are intentionally addictive for a reason, right? Yeah. So, again, when you look around society and you see relationships, for the most part, not thriving, you see how common it is for people to sit at the table. They can be out for dinner and on their phone, right? And again, I get it. It's an addiction, isn't it?
My favourite thing when I see a couple or even two friends sitting at a table and they're both on their phones, and if I'm out with somebody else, my favourite thing is to turn to that person I'm out with and go, do you think they're texting one another?
I know. I'm really pleased that your filter kicks in and you don't say it to those people, because I think you would have to have a few more fisticuffs, and I just, it's not a value, but it's interesting noticing how that has become endemic in our society.
But I wonder what those people would think if they were called to account on it. If they suddenly looked at themselves from the outside and went, you know what, here I am, I'm at a really nice restaurant, or I'm on a weekend away, or I've just managed to sneak out with my beloved, and we're both sitting here following other stuff on our phone instead of being present for what we are.
My sneaking suspicion is it would not offend people at all. They'd be like, ugh, that's how life is. And that's completely fine. But if we tie back into radical self-responsibility and you have a relationship that does not feel nourishing, look at your customs and practices and habits, because generally speaking, a little bit of tweaking here and there can revolutionize the relationship, can't it?
It can. And this is one, I guess it's pretty fresh in Jodi's mind, as you can tell.
Yeah.
But we've starting to bring in some more loosely put guidelines for when we go to bed. So we're talking about we're not bringing our phones into our space once we get into bed all the time. We used to.
No.
You'd get into bed, you're tired, you'd have your phone out, you'd scroll through for 10 minutes, you'd put your phone away
rest.
And go to sleep.
Yeah.
And lose X amount of time of your lives.
Well, we don't even do social media. So it's not even like we're on TikTok, Stalkbook, Insta or any, I mean, I just Shutter, no thanks. But we're not on any of those, but you can still spend time on your phone. And I get it, like it is a powerful computer that is super useful for everything. You know, we have the shopping list on there and we have our accounting on there. And
well, that's when it goes from being a tool to make your life easier to something that becomes almost dominant within your life.
Yes, you become the tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, in so many levels.
But what we will say is that we're not ridiculous about this. There are some times where you actually just want to be in bed on device and have that really luxurious rainy day vibe, hot water bottle vibe, where you actually get to just enjoy being entertained in a position of comfort. And so one of the things we've done is that we have introduced some free pass nights where we actually get to do that if we want to in the bed, and we, you know, don't have to do this tech away kind of thing. But I think what we find is that we bring a bit more fun into our relationship, and certainly more connection, and certainly some more opportunities, wink, wink, when we get rid of the phone, because it's a passion killer.
Yeah, it is. It takes away from that a chance to really focus on your partner again and have connection at a really, you know, potentially physical level, as well as everything else that should come with that. But those of you that are listening to the podcast on the phone, just remember, once you're done, you need to put it down.
Yes.
Because we don't want to discourage any listeners at all. But
what, from listening or from connecting?
From listening and from connecting.
Right, good.
So yeah, phones are definitely something you need to think about. And I mean, it's systematic across households, across families. And if you can examine your phone use and your interaction time between you and your partner, that might hopefully lead to you examining it in relation to your extended family, being your immediate family and then your extended family.
Well, I don't even want to be prescriptive about it. I mean, if you want to use your phone, more power to you, but you've got to notice where the impact is happening. So I actually don't want to tell people what to do. I don't want to suggest it. I don't even want to invite it. You decide. But it's a bit like if you're going to eat Maccas every day and then you're totally surprised when you have a heart attack. I mean, seriously, the environment we create is what we manifest, right?
It is. And the other analogy I think of with that is the classic armchair parenting.
Yes.
You know, sitting on the couch, you know, yelling at a 2.5-year-old across the other side of the room to do something, or trying to get their attention, and they're
in their own little world.
Yeah, they're in their own little world,
yeah.
As opposed to getting up off the couch, going over, getting down on eye level and engaging.
Yes.
And getting that attention and bringing yourself into their world so they can accept what you're saying.
It is. It really is about engagement. I mean, it's engagement with all connections that you want to make. And so one of the things that we have in practice is that if we are doing something on the phone, and that's usually me because I try and run a business off the phone as well, is I'll say, you don't have my attention right now. Or I'll put the phone down. I put it face down, so I'm not even kind of sneaking looks at
and
what's
you
going on.
are really good with that. Whenever, especially, I notice it all the time when the kids come up to talk to us, Jodi will actually put her phone down and away.
Yes.
And you can see the difference in the kids because they know automatically that, oh, I've got mum's attention.
Yes.
And it's an honouring of them as well. And I mean, think about that. If you're honouring your partner that way all the time, can't help it.
I don't want to raise assholes that do that to other people. I just think it, again, sit as the observer, be the fly on the wall. Give yourself the opportunity of seeing this happening in society, which is everywhere. But, you know, have that experience, because I think then that helps you create a foundational belief that you can then build upon.
And the next time, if you're out for dinner with your partner and they're on their phone, get yours out and text them. and say, oi,
How about we have a conversation?
I'm over here, thanks. Put that away.
Are you being prescriptive again?
I am, but it's one of my real
You want-
bugbears.
Right. Yeah, okay. But that's okay, because that's it's their relationship to nourish or destroy.
But this is just such a simple thing that they can do to start getting back into that connection. Because again, when we do, wrong word, but when we do bad behavior or we have habits that aren't necessarily great,
that don't bring out the best in us.
when we get pulled on those, we suddenly go, oh, hang on a minute, because we've been unaware of what we're doing. And I think a lot of people are unaware of what they're doing when they're just sitting there staring or scrolling.
Well, the idea is you're a team. That's the whole point. I mean, you're a community of two. So that's where the richness of relationships comes from, is you're never really alone, because you've got a wingman or a wingwoman with you. One of the other things that I was really curious to revisit, and this is something that we are unpracticed at. That's a new phrase for me. Instead of we're not very good at, we say we're unpracticed. But one of the things that we are unpracticed at that we used to be really practiced at was to, whenever we arrived back from somewhere, reunited is how I'd probably describe it, we always made one another the first person who got kissed. Now, as the kids have got faster and more agile, they often will beat us. And I mean, it's a beautiful thing to roll in home and have your kids running to the door to greet you. So I don't want to take away from that. But one of the things that we always prioritize, and it was so profoundly impactful when the oldest were little, where you're just kind of shell-shocked in parenting, going, oh my God, I would love to sleep through the night and actually have my breast to myself for a while. I'm so shocked when I say breasts. You're very attached to them, aren't you?
Oh, well, I had to wait how many years to get them back. So,
it's still mine.
I'm still attached to them.
They're only on loan. But that thing of where you would come in the door from work, because I was a stay-at-home parent, and McGill would come in and he would just meet me and give me a big smooch. And it was just beautiful. Again, one of our love languages of receiving is both touch. And so that reconnection was really important. So again, whatever the love language is, if this resonates with you, employ the receiving love language and offer that to your partner when you reunite with them, even if it's just after a day's work.
Well, it's funny you say that, because literally when I got home this afternoon, and I had beautiful kids waiting at the door, so I got a couple of hugs, a couple of kisses, and then I came in, I put my stuff down, and then the very next thing I did was to walk down where you were, and to stop and kiss you and talk to you. But the other thing that's triggered is that when I leave to go somewhere, I always try to make you the last person I say goodbye to.
Which is nice. I think that's one of those, in case I get hit by the bus kind of things, isn't it?
Not quite death goggles. But...
Well, I mean, clearly I'm macabre, but I come back to that stuff all the time. I mean, this is this ongoing joke about the fact that I can't stand lukewarm coffee, because I'm like, what if I die and my last coffee was lukewarm? That's really going to, rankle me. But I always think, you making me the last person you kiss or vice versa is a real hit by the bus decision.
No, it doesn't come from that point from me. To me, it's about
then for you.
It's just about going, you know what? Yep, I said goodbye to all those. You're the one. You're the one that, choose you. Got to go, but I'll be back. And I'll come back and I'll choose you again.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it's not motivated by your imminent death.
Speaking of I choose you, this is a fun story from when friends of ours got married. So ambulance friends of Jodi's, Lucy and Turtle.
Beautiful Lucy and Turtle.
And we're at their wedding, and I think it was one of the grandfathers. It might have been Lucy's grandfather.
This is so amazing. I can't remember what we did yesterday.
And he and I were talking, and there's no doubt I had a few drinks, and we're having
get out of town.
We're having a bit of a chat, and I was getting some lifetime advice, and anyhow, in a pause in the conversation, I turned to him and said, I said, that's amazing. I said, but if Jodi leaves me, I'm going with her.
Yeah.
And it clearly tickled his fancy, because then later on that night, I'm out on the dance floor with Jodi, and I get this tap on the shoulder, and he leans over to Jodi and he goes, if you leave, he's going with you. And he would have been in his 70s, and he's had this great giggle and just wandered back across the dance floor.
Yeah.
And it's one of the jokes that we've had all the way through our relationship is...
Or threat or promise.
Or threat or promise. But if one of us leaves, the other one's going with them.
Yeah.
So, you know, the kids will fend for themselves.
Yeah. That'd be right.
But it's back to that I choose you sort of thing.
It is.
And it's funny because that's one of the things that's really stuck with me, because I really loved the simplicity of it, but the dead set joy in watching people go, oh yeah, it's as simple as making it is. It's as simple as going, yeah, well, I'm coming with you.
But it is, it's that uniting language. You know, it's not divisive, it's not adversarial. And you suddenly realize how the languaging of that stuff is so impactful. Even if it's a bit of a playful joke, those words have impact, especially when they're said over and over again.
They do. And it gives a level of security within your relationship when you know that you are being honored and cherished by your partner.
Yes.
And that comes through so many different things. So, you know, if your language with your partner is a little bit harsh or a little bit short, change that.
And notice what it might be, because it might be that you haven't taken time for yourself. And, you know, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, you know, I just really need to do this for myself. And I get that. And sometimes family life means you triage out space for yourself. However, there is an opportunity to fast track that time for yourself. It can be as simple as sitting in the car around the corner from home and taking 3 deep breaths. It can be as simple as putting on a song and singing to it before you reunite with your family. It can be as simple as walking outside and looking up at the trees or sky or stars, or, you know, whatever time of day you find yourself, or, you know, going for an ocean dip and immersing yourself in nature. There are some very fast ways. You don't actually need a day at the spa to revive yourself. That is a misnomer, and it is built in essentially this slavery that we've created for ourselves, that we can only have meaningful restoration of self through, you know, stuff that costs money and takes time
and big treats and
I owed it. And it's just like, you're not. What you're doing is you're just showing some radical self-responsibility of recentering yourself, coming back to your heart space. Isn't this just a perfect top? Can you see that? Bit of gold heart there. But, you know, recentering yourself and coming back to your heart space, because ultimately your foundational belief is that you choose to be together.
And what I want to come back to, you just touched on a couple of strategies that you obviously spoke about there and you used. We spoke about bringing stress from work into the home as well. And so one of the things that I ended up doing, and this is something you can use, I challenge you to use this one. Invite. When you're driving home, if you've got a little bit of a trip, for the last 20 minutes or half an hour of the trip, turn the radio off.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some people travel without their radio on, and I really applaud that. I don't use mine very much anymore.
I don't use it at all.
But if you're coming home after a stressful day and you're traveling down the freeway or whatever, and you've got the music blaring, the last 20 minutes, just turn it off and just...
We've become really unpracticed at silence.
We have, and we've become very uncomfortable with silence.
Well, the monkey mind, it's like the monkey mind goes almost immediately when you invite silence into your world. But again, as you get more practice at that, it becomes less confronting, doesn't it?
And set an intention with that. I'm turning off the radio. I'm 20 minutes from home. I know exactly every turn I'm going to take. Just going to roll in. I wonder what's been happening at my house today.
Yeah.
I wonder how my beautiful partner's been going. I wonder what Jodi's been up to. I wonder what the kids have been up to. And so you bring that beautiful level of curiosity in, and you start to decompress from whatever you've been doing. So that's a good one. The other one, one of the things that I know I used to do, I would put on a song in the last kilometre from home that, might be a song that reminds me of you.
Yeah.
And I would just pump it up. It's just me in the car, and I'll just listen to that song, or I'd choose a song that reminded me of a time or a point in our relationship, put that on so that when I get out, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm that head over heels, cartwheeling down the street from, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And where is it? There she is. There's that beautiful little girl that I was happily chasing around at that point in time. And guess what?
Made me sound really young.
I'm
I was
still
28.
chasing around. Well, you were, well, the other side of that is maybe we're getting really old.
We could be.
Could be. We won't admit to that, of course, especially on a podcast. So there's some simple things that you can use. If you're coming home, you've had a stressful day. They do work for us, but they're also a way to decompress from any day, even if you're going home to an empty house.
Yeah.
turn it off in the car, have time in the car, or do something that takes your focus on what you've done, so that when you get home, you're almost working with a blank canvas.
Yeah.
So you can get in and have that A-grade experience.
And it doesn't have to be every time. It's actually just about peppering it through your relationship and your experience. I mean, we're not trying to be evangelical about this stuff. There are times where McGill's in the zone and in love with me, and I'm like, you are the cause for my life right now. And God, life would be simple if I could go 50-50 custody and, you know, do half the washing and half the shopping and, you know, I mean, all the fantasy of that part of life.
Well, the problem is that we just want to divorce the kids sometimes.
Oh,
you know.
my God, these poor kids. At
we
some
love
point
them to bits.
we'll
They are
apologise to-
absolutely amazing. So disclaimer there. We wouldn't, but sometimes you just want to
Often we say if we're joking about it, they're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we're making plans, they should be worried. So this has been a lovely conversation. And I guess what I want to leave or finish with is just some acknowledgement of we don't have all the answers, and sometimes we could improve on, you know, the way we relate and so forth. However, there's a lot of shared love here, and there's a lot of pleasure in each other's company. I mean, in a non-sexual way, but pleasure in each other's company and in the things that, you know, happen for us. Like I've recently just gone through a job change, and it's totally created upheaval in the family. And McGill could have easily been quite shitty at me. And bless his cotton socks, he brought a new word to my awareness, which is mantrum, which is a man having a tantrum. And oh my God, I'm going to dine out in that for so long. I just love mantrum, McGill. It's so good.
Well, we probably need a potty on that, don't we?
Yeah, but what happened was you were able to have your mantrum, which was totally appropriate because I had just gone in guns a-blazing and just, you know, messed up our rhythm.
Changed the entire way life was operating for the last, 18 months.
I just fucked it completely in the nicest way possible, but it's been worth it. And after McGill moved his energy, and when he does that stuff, it scares me because I'm like, oh, crap, I'm not like that much of a catch that he couldn't just, you know, I'm joking, but, you know, I'm not the be all and end all. I'm totally aware of the fact that if I make life too hard for him, he might just go, out you go. But you know, what happened was you had your mantrum and it was totally appropriate and you worked through that. And then what came out of that was that then McGill has celebrated every day that I've come home in delight. So there hasn't been anything to do with me holding back the joy of my new experiences. There's just been this abject celebration of what I'm doing.
Yeah, and look, you know, I needed to move that energy, and you know,
and it would be wrong of me to say you don't get to have a tantrum when I've just gone and blown up all the ease that we had just created for ourselves. Like, what a shitty thing to do. And you know, I'm so blessed with how you've supported that and you celebrate that. Like, it's really, shout out to you, babes.
Oh, thank you, thank you,
thank you.
Makes me speechless again.
Oh, sweetie, you're so good.
I love it. How can I be a good wingman on a podcast if I don't know what to say next?
Oh my God. One of the things I will just finish with is that we, McGill and I got married for our 30th birthdays. So we did a double 30th birthday party and a wedding, and because it was just a lot easier, and McGill just said, could we have it close to the birthdays, because then it'll be easier for me to remember and not forget anniversaries. So well played him. But you know, we had my birthday and then a couple of days later the wedding anniversary, and I said to him, you know, you get like a C- for birthday efforts this time round. Like he'd got busy and there was just no effort. Normally he writes these really beautiful cards, and then total redemption. You heard what I said, you didn't get all wounded, and you went away and you wrote the most luscious, loving anniversary letter to me, which was just so beautiful. And when we come back to that place of what it was like to meet one another and that honeymoon. I just love Bruce Lipton talking about the honeymoon effect. And he says you can keep that going in relationships. So when we create that intention for ourselves in relationships going, yeah, I'm going to have a bit of that honeymoon effect in my relationship. And yeah, it looks different because we're 19 years down the road, but that also brings with it a knowingness of one another and a pleasure in all the shared experiences and all that's been created. And that can be reflected in words. It's so powerful. And one of the things I will say that is just such a great investment in relationship is that when you do things like write really beautiful cards or really beautiful letters, you can keep that with you. And then when you're having those moments of disconnection, which is all part of the contrast of relationships.
And we all have those times.
Of course we do. Of course we do. I mean, that is all part of the inhalation and exhalation of growth, isn't it? And progress. You have those. And it is the richness of contrast. But if you have those letters or mementos or whatever it might be, use them as another tool for reconnection, because right at that moment when you're both feeling tired, perhaps you don't have the presence of mind to articulate that, but it's been captured on paper. So they can be wonderful little resuscitation mementos for relationships, can't they?
Yeah,
and that's been something that I revisited over and over again. I mean, I think I kept a card that you'd done for me on the windowsill all through the, the young kid stage, where you're just like, my God, this will never end. And they will never learn to look after themselves. And I'm so tired. And I would keep looking at that, reading that card. And it didn't matter where you were. It took me back to that moment when you said those beautiful words, and I knew them to still be true. And such impact for the person who is feeling a little bit unsupported or just not
drift.
quite drift, just not quite anchored and not quite whole.
That's beautiful. So wow. So again, these are from experiences that we've had, things that have worked for us to help us stay connected. And
and we're still practicing,
and we have these
refining.
And as Jodi said, we don't rehearse these podcasts. We just sit down and we talk.
We talk shit.
We don't always talk like this to one another, but we're always happy to talk to one another and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's brutally honest. Sometimes I get told that I need to move the cover clearly over my bum a bit more.
Oh no, I'm not complaining.
Or whatever that may be.
Just observing. Thanks for joining us, beautiful people. Do you have any closing thoughts? Are you complete?
I think we're giving you a shed load of information, and I hope that you find something there that resonates with you to just help you with that extra bit of connection with your partner.
See you next time.
Bye.